Every successful startup begins with one thing, an idea.
Put dragons down on. They've just had someone present your idea and they've all just bought into it.
But idea doesn't build companies, the execution does. Everyone have an idea. It's about the courage that they're gonna take and go to the market and do it. The real question is, how do you turn an idea into a product into revenue, and the revenue into something that investors actually believe in?
Yeah, some people, for the right reasons, can give you terrible advice.
Data always tells you a different story. In today's episode of nlsa podcast, we'll break down the real blueprint of how to build a startup.
It's a very different thing when it comes to, okay, now
Start.
pay for that.
Okay, the exact steps from zero to launch. Also, the skills that every founder must develop. How do you find your first 10 paying customers? If you want to build something last or something really scalable and something really fundable, this episode is for you. And this is going to be the starting point of that.
Don't do like I do and try and do it all yourself.
Let's build your startup together. Today we got an expert with us. He'll be taking us on a journey on building a startup. He's a founder and CEO of Resourcefully. Welcome, Pete. Welcome to nlsa podcast.
So I'm Pete Savage. How would I describe myself? I think I'm a serial ideas person. Since I was a child, I've just constantly had ideas of how to make things better, quicker, whatever the rationale is. Very practical side of things. So whenever I'm anywhere, unfortunately, my brain is wired to go, well, how could we have done that better or quicker or cheaper or whatever it might be? I've just been wired that way since birth. And for years and years and years, I used to write these ideas down. We'd have friends around for dinner, as I got older, and I'd tell them when they'd always come around and say, what's your latest idea, Pete? I'd tell them and they'd either laugh at me or say that's a great idea or whatever it was. And I always remember there was one idea 10 or 20 years ago, and I had friends around and we talked about this again. One Pete's ideas, what have you got? Told them about it and they went, oh, that's rubbish, it'll never take off. And I got a phone call about a year later saying, put dragons down on. They've just had someone present your idea and they've all just bought into it.
Wow.
So I thought, maybe I should do something with these ideas rather than just write about them and tell people and laugh at me over dinner. 5 or 10 years ago, I made that decision to look at those ideas, look at the future ideas, and actually act on one of them rather than just talk about it.
Every human being is an entrepreneur. That's what I believe. Everyone have an idea. It's about the courage that they're gonna take and go to the market and do it.
Yeah.
That's what make them a real entrepreneur than working under someone.
Yeah. I don't think everyone's an entrepreneur. I don't think everybody has ideas they want to do anything with. But I do agree a lot of people do. And I think the difference, and I'm a latecomer to this whole thing really, of actually then taking action to do rather than talk about it. Like I said, my book is full of ideas.
Yeah.
Some of them probably awful. But the difference between someone off the street and someone who becomes an entrepreneur is actually taking that step and doing something about it. And maybe doing something about it in a more structured way. Validating, how do you make sure it is actually a good thing? Who do you listen to? Who do you not listen to? As I said, a bank manager told me that a sandwich shop was a rubbish idea. Turns out it probably wasn't.
Yeah.
Whether I'd have executed on it is a different matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, some people, for the right reasons, can give you terrible advice.
I have an idea. I want to build a business around it. So how do I validate an idea in 48 hours and give a confirmation of myself, this is something I should try or I should keep this in the shelf itself?
Okay. So I think we're in a much better and interesting world right now with AI, which will help in that process. But what I'd have always said before we've kind of evolved into this AI, we can create something very quickly. Go out and validate. We spent 9 months rather than 48 hours just talking to people, presenting the idea, having the story. Because I think any good idea needs that story, that vision, to be able to present for people to buy into and understand. But keep all that feedback, positive and negative, You can create prototypes. Again, pre-AI, it might have been a paper drawing. I'm thinking it might look like this and do
Like a
this.
flow chart.
Yeah. It can be really cheaply done. You don't have to spend a lot of money. But what you're presenting is the idea, the story, the vision, and then getting the feedback from others. So potential customers, people you don't think might be customers, it doesn't matter. Just get that feedback. And if you've got 48 hours, well, you might be running around talking to lots of people.
Yep.
But then look at it maybe not from a heart perspective, but rationally and pragmatically. Does that feedback that was negative, does that make sense? And then how would I mitigate that? Or were they saying yes because they were just being nice to me?
Okay.
You've got to look through those different lenses
Okay.
and try and work out, okay, do I now feel it's a really good idea?
Okay.
And then how do I now then execute to whatever the vision is?
All right. Can I structure it for our audience? Maybe first build your idea with a story.
Yes.
Once you build your idea with a story, present it to the people who are in that actual market. Maybe in that market, that's a qualitative analysis being done. So let's say we have to do some quantitative analysis with data, like maybe we can do some SWOT analysis or something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm just adding on, right? It's just two spectrum we need to validate.
Yeah.
So because data always tells you a different story.
Yeah.
So in that case, what kind of method they should be taking, like whether they should be getting data on their industry. Let's say I'm going to sell sushi tomorrow for a certain market, like in New Zealand, let's say. Should I be getting data of sushi companies, that revenue that's been generated, then do a SWOT analysis? Any that kind of recommendation you can give?
I'm thinking more of not necessarily joining the sushi market, but coming out with something new and different that hasn't yet necessarily been validated. But then it's understanding your customers. Who are going to be your customers that will potentially buy into your vision or your idea, and then go and talk to them and others around that in that sort of same area and get their thoughts. Because it's very easy for people to say that's a great idea and we'd love to do it. It's a very different thing when it comes to, okay, now
it's time.
Pay for that.
Okay. So in simple way, your idea to story, story to quantitative and qualitative, then you do get the feedback on that. Then you go to your building your product. Or suite. Let's say I'm building a software for podcasters, right? So what's the building mode look like? What should be actually focused on?
So I think, again, in the era of AI, our worlds are very different now. We can, and I have done in the last couple of weeks, again, with the Pete has lots of ideas hat on, gone to Replit or Claude or whatever it might be, and put in my idea and have something produced half decent in half an hour.
Like a skeleton structure.
Yeah, but with functions and, sign-ins and whatever it might be. We can produce that very quickly. I haven't taken anything like that to the next stage to market. But I would think if you don't understand what it's produced, you probably want to work with someone who can look under the bonnet and
like that proper
code and peer review and make sure, it's doing all the right things. And then if that's the foundations, then build on that.
All right. In that scenario, you have story, as we again going to structure story, analysis, feedbacks. Now you are in the product. Building an MVP can take less than a week of time. You with the help of AI, like maybe ChatGPT. They can use Cloud, Gemini, or maybe Replit, like all-in-one cost solutions like Lovable. In that scenario, do you really believe somebody has to look into that code because it's like a minimum viable product? They're just testing that product, right?
Not at that time.
Not at that time.
I think that helps you sell the story.
Yes.
Shows you a visual.
Yeah.
Again, I think people are generally, if I was to describe something, people might nod and like it or not like it. But if you've produced something that's working, that represents your idea, I think that's an easier for people to understand and grasp what it is you're actually doing and thinking of producing. So we've got that ability, this tool now that we can produce something really quickly. It's usable, MVP. My advice then beyond that, should you, have a customer or want to take it further, is don't do like I did and try and do it all yourself. Have other people around you to support.
When it's ready,
Yeah.
go for help.
Yeah. Because we don't know everything, legal, marketing, technical, whatever it might be. My opinion is it's a bit of a triangle in my opinion. You have the person with the idea, the vision, which might be a phased vision to get to a certain end point. Then you need someone that can actually help create that. Technically, that could be, an agent, AI now, but again, I'd say a human in there as well, or humans. It doesn't have to be one for one. And then someone who can do the marketing and can tell people about it. It's no good building something that's awesome and no one knowing about it. So you've got to have that sort of triangle.
Now we have a product. Okay.
Yeah.
We have done your feedback. We have taken feedbacks. We have a product. We have all things ready to go. How do you find your first 10 paying customers?
I would say the best way is during that validation period of talking to potential customers, and those might be sort of enterprise level or whatever you've determined as possibly your best market. Getting some commitment from them early on. If I build this thing, will you
Buy it.
trial it, buy it, be my first customer, even if it's a non-paying customer to start with, so that you can go and say, we already have a customer? Because I think quite often you get asked, have you got any other customers? And if you go in and sort of say no, in people's minds, they wonder if it's then a good product or solution. But if you can get some commitment, preferably in writing,
Yeah. Will be good.
early, to the once you've put the effort and built your thing, that you have your first customer.
Okay. It's not just verbally make a contract with them.
If you can. That would be the ideal.
It's like a safe contract.
It's commitment. Yeah. If we agree this thing is a good thing, and I'm going to put my time and effort to build this, can I have your commitment, who said it's a good thing and it could be useful for your business? Can you commit to be trialing it? Whatever the commitment is, give me 3 months to trial it in your business. And if it goes well, then you can be a reference client going forward.
Interesting. Cool. So you're going to get people who are given feedback. What are the possible ways we can get our 10 customers?
So again, in my opinion, the best way to then find those next customers is a referral from your customer base. If they can vouch for the solution, whatever it is great and it's working and it's doing X, Y, and Z for them. And then there's another customer who does something very similar or in the same sort of market, and they can vouch that this saves them time or money or whatever it might be, then that's going to be the perfect way to then build up on that.
So now we got our customers, right? Now I want to understand how we should be pricing our product. That's the hardest part. Like maybe I'll be overpriced or underpriced. How will you understand that sweet spot?
So I'm going to contradict myself probably a little bit here.
Okay.
That first customer, I said, even if it's free, because you want a first customer on your books.
Yep.
I think the biggest problem is undervaluing yourself. If you go in too cheap, people don't believe it has a value. I think it's always easier to maybe overprice or price in a way that you can bring down in some way, shape or form without losing sort of the value of the solution. Very hard to say, I've sold you this for $50 a month, but now I think it's worth 200 or something. It's easier to come down. Again, depending on what the product is, if it's new in market, there's got to be some reason for the company to buy it. What are they saving? Is it time? Is it money? Is it both? And what is that worth to them? So if they're going to save $1 million a year, then maybe 500,000 a year is worth it for them. I don't know. It depends on the scales, but you've got to validate what it represents for them in terms of time, money.
How can I find a user will pay this much of amount? What kind of strategies I will be using to understand this price point?
Depends who you're going to be charging as well. If
Okay,
you're
let's say-
charging a job seeker,
Yeah, let's say job seeker.
that might be complicated by the fact of what am I going to get out of that? If I'm paying for that, I'm kind of almost wanting a guaranteed job. I don't want to be paying and paying and paying and paying and paying and not
Okay.
get any jobs. So it's who you charge and how to monetize that solution.
Okay, that makes me think I should not charge the users. I would be charging the companies
Yeah.
who are putting advertisements.
Potentially. Yeah.
Okay, so it's about finding the right customers as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
No.
So I can use resourcefully as a bit of an example about that. So one of the things we want to do at resourcefully is enable organizations to find and hire the talent they want. So trying to remove that friction of putting a job advert out there on Trade Me or Seek or wherever you might do it, then being in flux with hundreds of CVs that have probably been AI generated to match the the job. We want that to be as simple and easy and free for the individuals on there. We don't want to charge them to put their profiles and be visible. We're trying to help them and support them find work and hopefully build tech in New Zealand. That's a separate story. So what we're doing is saying, from an organization perspective, is you can find and hire the talent you need a lot quicker. And because it's a platform, it can be a lot cheaper. You can self-serve essentially. That's the vision of where we're trying to go. And self-serve globally, if that should be your wish. So if you need someone to develop a solution, a developer, for example, if they've got the right skills in New York or London or wherever it is, you can find those people with the right skills and on board to deliver your solution. But for that, rather than going through recruitment agencies or Seeks or different whatever that charge significantly more, you can find and hire those people directly. So you will have a small charge, but it'll be a lot smaller in terms of monetary, but also a lot faster in terms of your time. So there was, as part of my validation, an organization who I won't name, but they did the exercise of saying, how much does it actually cost us to replace someone? So someone leaves, how much does it actually cost us in the time to write the job descriptions, go to the interviews, put the adverts out there? $40,000 was the figure they came up with. And this is a few years ago. To replace someone. That's on top of then any sort of fees that you might incur. So that's essentially people's time. So, it's a significant cost that we believe we've come up with the solution.
How is it different from the traditional job searching sites like Seek, Trade Me?
So I've done that from my perspective many, many times.
Okay.
Looking for a job, getting no response, or, best friends while they think they're going to place you somewhere, and then silence. It's very stressful and very painful and there's a lot of rejection or silence from the contractor or the person. And this goes for permanent work as well, flip side of things. And from an organization perspective, they go through, different levels of people. They have to write the job description, they have to put the advert out there, they have to go to HR, they have to go to an agency, whatever it might be, or a consultancy. It's a lot of time and effort to do that. So trying to take all of that friction out of that market is, I think, again, with my pragmatic head on, the sensible way and a solution that is great for them. For New Zealand as well. Yeah.
Okay, so this means any of our viewers can visit resourcefully.io and register them. And if they are qualified, the potential job seeker job offerings can...
So we've turned it on its head. So you're not applying for jobs.
Okay.
People find you.
Yeah.
And from an organization perspective, again, there's no adverts, because we all know if an organization puts an advert in, even if they try and hide who they are, people generally know who they are, and they get inundated, or have I got the person for you, or can I, whatever. It's anonymous. So the only knowledge you have from someone looking from work perspective is someone contacts you and says, you're a perfect match for us. Let us tell you about our organization and blah, blah, blah.
What are the supports in New Zealand specifically that our audience can tap in as a startup? Maybe like funding, I don't know, what are possible opportunities there?
Yeah.
I know you are also a member of startup community in Auckland.
So there are a number of startup sort of supporting entities out there. They're all a little bit, in my opinion, siloed. They're also very good at when the startup's getting to the point of wanting to scale. Whereas if you're at the very, very, very early stages, you've got your MVP, you're trying to find your first one or two customers, I don't feel there's a lot of support out there. If we went to an angel investor or a VC with an idea and maybe an MVP and a solution, if they bought into that, they would take more equity for the money, having not been proven.
Yeah.
Now, I think going down that bootstrapping route is starting to make it more difficult. So we'll have to navigate and go into that funding at some point. That point for me is when we're looking to then go more global. So we've proved ourselves in New Zealand, that's Australia, the US, Europe, wherever it might be.
Okay.
So that's the way we've approached it.
Yeah.
There are entities out there that help. Like I said, at the very, very beginning, I think that's the bit that's probably the bit for me that I couldn't find or was missing in New Zealand.
Well, can you name a few entities that can people tap into?
So I'm part of the Auckland Business Chamber, and in there we have a sort of a tech council. Part of that is a number of the Grid Auckland, for example, and other startup areas that support.
What's it called?
Grid Auckland, and there's an innovation centre in Newmarket as well. And then I can't remember off the top of my head immediately, but there are some great things that they're generally run by, I think, by Auckland Council, who are very much, I think Wayne Brown is very much standing behind supporting technology and entrepreneurship.
Awesome.
Which is great. So I'm hoping there's going to be more and more coming in that space.
That's awesome.
I would love to see something like, a Sharesies or someone having a fund to support startups.
Yeah.
I mean, early stage startups.
Yeah, understood.
And get the public invested and wanting to see in those things grow.
Okay.
There's a whole world there within New Zealand. Let's stop buying houses and let's look at how we can support New Zealand Inc. and startups and see them grow. And if you're part of that journey with them, I think that's very exciting.
Okay. Can you give me, specifically for our audience, who are no understanding about what's a venture capitalist, what's seed funding, what is, bootstrap, all these things. Can you give me the difference between an angel investor, bootstrap, venture capitalist, and seed funding?
From a bootstrapping perspective, it really is, it's yourself or your founders are using your own capital and money and time and efforts to build your solution, to take it to market and go and get the customers that eventually gives you revenue. So there's no external injection of.
Okay. So you funding yourself for your project. Yeah. All right. That's bootstrap.
That's bootstrap.
What's angel investors?
So angel or is an external fund, an angel or a venture capitalist or whoever it might be, who you would pitch to. And there's talk about pitch decks and the right way to do that. Again, it's very story led, but you're selling the idea to a bunch of individuals or an individual who then likes the idea and invests their capital. Now, I would say you want an investor that's not just money. Ideally, you want someone that understands that world and that market you're in and brings more than just the money to bring their network or support. All right, it might be. But essentially, they're helping you build your business, generally with a cash injection and hopefully with support as well.
That's really what's seed funding.
Seed funding is that literally, as it states, the seed funding, the very basic starts to the equity that would be put into an organization or an idea to help it and start it growing.
It can be yourself, can be your family, can be anyone around you. Okay.
Yeah, I think they used to refer it as the 3 Fs: the friends, family, and fools.
Yes. And family fools. Cool. What is a VC? When can we start approaching a venture capitalist funds?
For me, and the way we're going to approach this from a resource-based perspective is when we've got to the point where we feel we've got a working solution with enough customers and enough revenue and support of the tech industry to then go to a venture capitalist and sell our story, sell our vision of what we think the future can be, which, could be enormous from my perspective. And also find someone that wants to invest in what we want to invest into as well, which is look after the country, look after the organizations. We want to put a lot back in, not just that sort of take the money out greed, buy a bigger boat or whatever it might be. So we need to find someone that's willing to go on that journey with us and has the same morals, if you like, and then present the idea to. And from a resource-free perspective, it's when we want to go beyond New Zealand shores.
So people who have more worldwide reach,
yes,
can be a certain group of people, can be a company that is ready to invest into your idea, and they can onboard with you to bring
And again, a bit like bringing your idea to life, you need to go out and find out who those potential people are.
Yep.
And do your research. Who do you want to work with, essentially? Because they're going to have a very big influence on your day-to-day and pressures to deliver and grow and build. Obviously, someone puts X number of dollars in, at some point they're going to hand the baton on to somebody else. They want that X dollars times whatever out.
Yeah.
And then you'll go on to the next round, Series A, Series B, Series C, who then are multiples of that.
Yeah.
So they're investors for a reason. They invest with a certain amount of capital. They're hoping or expecting to get 5 times, 10 times, whatever it is out, and then hand the baton on to the next set of capitalists that would take you to the next phase. So they're under pressure. They're wanting to make good their investments. So you've got to work out who it is you actually want to work with in a regard.
If we have 2 minutes for our audience, just to teach a skill that you learned from multiple years, what is that? What's that? And how you're going to help them to learn that in 2 minutes?
I don't know if it's a skill as such. Maybe there's probably a couple of things that come to mind immediately. That's storytelling. I think that's in our DNA. I think there's ways to learn how to sell a story or a vision or whatever it might be. I think that's a key thing you could probably learn. The bit I would say that maybe isn't the learning is that persistence. I think if you genuinely believe you've got a good idea, and having done a number of readings and listening to various things, the thing that comes through to me a lot is those that were very successful, they had that. They just continued. They just ground on. Their heart was in, this is a good idea. This is a good solution. I think when you bring something to market or you come up with an idea, there's an element of luck, timing, and hard work. And so that persistence, I think, helps get over that. The timing might not be right. So for us, again, going on to the resourcefully perspective, COVID in the last couple of years has very much seen, certainly in New Zealand, a lot of unemployment in the last year or two. We've seen a lot of people in my field and where I now migrating or going to Australia predominantly, rightly or wrongly. So it's been a hard market in which to bring a solution like resourcefully. We're starting, I believe, and hopefully seeing the tide turn a little bit. But I'm hoping perseverance and hard work, and then the timing will come into its own.
Cool. Yeah. All right, let's enter to our rapid round question. Okay, so what's going to happen, I'll be throwing some random questions. You can either give a one word or one sentence as an answer. So question number 1, what's your best advice you got in your entire life?
I think if I was to give advice, which I would think would be the best advice, is get going and do. Start doing. Sweet. And stop thinking.
Worrying about it. Yeah. What's the one skill set every founder should have?
I can say perseverance again, aren't I? And I just think you go through some very hard times, very difficult times, a lot of effort for potentially not a lot of gain that you see immediately. So again, I'd say that perseverance, keep going. If you truly believe in what you're building, doing, don't give up.
What's the one tool you cannot live without in 2026?
Again, I'm going to say AI again, or am I? It's got to be. I know it's the hype cycle we're in at the moment, but I don't think putting AI on everything as your branding, etc., is the right thing to do. But I think using that tool and harnessing its power it's got to be the thing we need to know and understand and use to our advantage in 2026 and beyond.
True. All right. Right now, let's say you have lost everything. You only have the knowledge that you have and a $500.
Yeah.
What will you be building today?
Again, I am probably going to look into my black book of ideas and read through and see which ones seemed like a good idea at the time, but weren't, and go and refresh my memory about a lot of that stuff. Maybe get inspired to come up with something else. Build something quickly, get it out there quickly, MVP, and iterate on that. Who knows what that would be? But that will be my 2:00 in the morning waking up tonight. Man, thank you very much.
Oh, good. As we are winding out, one question I want to ask is, like, I'm always going with one question, but I'm bombarding with questions. The people who are listening to our podcast, right, on this podcast, at the end of this podcast, what knowledge they would be taking from, like, this whole conversation?
Yes, if you're listening to this podcast and you're entrepreneurial and you're looking for how to go from an idea essentially to the marketplace and revenue and hopefully a lifestyle from that, which benefits you and others, it's definitely that starting with the idea, developing that idea, but it's that initial step of doing something about it.
Awesome.
There's, as you said at the start, there's many people. I'm not sure that's true, but there's a lot of people have an idea that don't do anything with it. And then there is lots of stuff out there you can read or listen to or whatever to kind of help you on that journey. But the first step is doing.
Yep. Go for it.
Go for it.
Right. Awesome. As we are winding up, is there anything that you want to share to our audience?
The journey is hard. It's not sexy and cool and, pavement lined with gold. It's a really hard work to have an idea, make that into something, and then get others on board. I think we've all probably seen images of the iceberg, and what people see is the tip.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. So go in with your eyes open. You will have very late nights, very early mornings, conversations that drive you mad. People don't get it. Lots of pitfalls and negative. There's lots of troughs as well as peaks. You've got to learn to go through those troughs.
Awesome. That's been
It's a hard slog at the beginning.
It's an amazing conversation. I'm sure people have got a lot of informational value out of this. There are a lot of concepts we talked about, and it's been really interesting. Okay, now any of our audience want to get in touch with you for more conversation?
Yeah.
What's the point?
I think that's one of the real positives I love about New Zealand. You're only 2 people away from anyone.
Yeah.
And I've found that people are really willing to give their time.
Yep.
It doesn't matter who it is. I could name some names. There's some very well-known people out there who've had the grace and the time to give me half an hour of the time and art knowledge onto me. I'm more than happy to do the same. So resourcefully, there's contact details there or on LinkedIn, Pete Savage, you can find me on off like this. Yeah, if I can help others as others have helped me,
yep,
absolutely more than happy to do that.
Awesome. Resourcefully.io. That's your entry point. All right. Thanks, Pete. It was an amazing conversation. Thank you.